Hello, everyone. I'm Andy from ThinkMo. I am currently teaching CCIE courses. From today on, I'm going to share with you CCNA, CCNP, CCIE related technologies. Our topic today is: how does the switch determine layer 3 forwarding or layer 2 forwarding? First, let's explain the concept of layer 2 forwarding and layer 3 forwarding. Layer 2 forwarding is usually check the MAC address table on the switch to forward the data. And layer 3 forwarding is to check what table. In the early days it was called the IP address table, routing table. Now it's actually called the FIB table. For your understanding, we call it a routing table, IP address table. It comes down to IP addresses and the concept of a MAC address. Their difference. We talked about switches and routers in the last issue. It's already been mentioned. If you look at the IP address table, it is the source rule that matches according to the longest mask. If there are more than one, find the best one. Then the data is forwarded. For the MAC address table, you can directly look up the table for forwarding. So back to today's topic. How does it judge layer 2 forwarding or layer 3 forwarding? First, layer forwarding. It's the switch that receives the data. We can draw a picture. Let's say this is a switch. Here are some of the corresponding computers. Then take the two computers below. Connect to switch. Let's say this is PC1. This is PC2. This is the switch. First, the switch receives data from PC1. This data is called a data frame. We did that in the last video. There are references to the concept of it. The front end is the destination MAC address, source MAC address. Then there's the IP layer, is the destination IP address, and then source IP. These are the main parameters. It looks up the table and it queries from this direction. You'll see the MAC address first, and then you see the IP address. When this data comes up, which means that the switch receives this data frame. The next step is to check the destination MAC address, and then the judgment is made. This is the destination MAC address. Is it the address of my interface? If so, just tear down this floor. When you remove it, you see the IP address. For example, the IP address of PC1 is 192.168.1.1. The IP address of PC2 is 192.168.1.2. First of all in the process, I'm just going to remove this layer. That's the MAC address. Because I already know it's me you're looking for. So for a MAC address, I took it apart. You will then see the destination IP address. The destination IP address goes to 1.2. That's when you get to the IP level. Then the 3-layer forwarding is carried out. If I break it down, this side is 1.2. Then the 3-layer forwarding is carried out. That's the layer of routing. Which means I need to check. 192.168.1.2 indicates the route. Which interface is it sent from? Let's say there's an entry for 192.168.1.0. And then out through the second interface. This is the first case called. The destination MAC address is MAC address of the interface, or the IP address of the VLAN interface. Simply put, it is looking for yourself. In this case, layer 3 forwarding is performed. The second one, let's say after this data comes up, it will find the destination MAC address, not one's own. The MAC address table is then queried. It wasn't looking for me. I'll check the MAC address table of the switch itself. Then the data is forwarded. Let's say it's in the MAC address table. At this point, it will be directly based on MAC address. Perform layer 2 forwarding.
So that means the data comes up later.
It's just a MAC address.
I saw this MAC address.
It's not the MAC address of my interface. Just look up the list. Let's say a certain MAC. This corresponds to the second interface. Just send it down. In this way, data is forwarded at layer 2.
What if there are no MAC addresses?
In the MAC address table. What to do? That brings us back to the last video. It's going to flood. These are layer 2 and layer 3 forwarding. For layer 3 forwarding,
we also need to summarize accordingly.
If the destination MAC address, it is not the MAC address of the interface, the MAC address table is queried, then forwarding is performed at layer 2. Layer 2 forwarding is relatively simple. If it's not in the MAC address table, it's going to flood. Flooding is in addition to an interface other than the receiving interface. Send a copy of this data.
If you send it and there's still no response,
it will be discarded.
For layer 3 switches,
that's how it judged.
We all know about tier 3 switches. It supports some corresponding routing functions.
That's it for today. If there are any other skills you'd like to learn, feel free to leave a message
or send me a private message.
If you're interested in what I'm talking about, hope to like and subscribe more. Thank you. See you next time.